So we've got the second episode of 2025, and today I have a co-host that none of you have met before, or maybe kind of. I don't know if you've been in some episodes kind of or not, I can't remember. But Tyler's here today, and he even made his office like pink and purple.
I did. I spent way too long trying to be on brand.
Well,
It was a really good procrastination afternoon for it, though.
You're welcome. I gave you purpose today.
You did.
So we think it's kind of weird to be like, oh, this is my husband and my wife, but technically, y'all, this is my husband. If you haven't caught on yet.
Tyler referenced.
How else would you describe yourself?
I think my only claim to fame with that your audience might know would be the story of how Book Wild became Book Wild.
Oh, that's true.
The name.
Mm-hmm. It is from you calling me Buck Wild for so long.
Yep.
And now I still am, but I'm also Book Wild.
Yep. You're both types of wild. You're just so crazy.
I'm insane. We were just referencing last week how Gare one time was like, you're such an adventurous woman. And I was like, from my couch, sure. We've been very adventurous with TV lately, too. We're technically going to talk about all of the movies we saw in theaters in 2024. But we've also really been going at it with spy thrillers, TV-wise. Slow Horses is, like, amazing. For anyone who watched Black Doves recently and talked with me about it, you need to consider Slow Horses. It's on Apple TV. And the thing that we think is the most brilliant about it is it's 6 episode seasons. So it doesn't drag. And it's just great.
Yeah. Yeah. No wasted time.
No wasted time.
Much like the last movie that we went and saw in theaters.
We really did not end the year on a good one.
We walked out of our very first movie ever.
Mm-hmm. Ever. It was that.
I even need a plot. Like, it can't just be pretty camera work and people. I need some substance.
I know. I wanted to love it. You guys all know how much I wanted to love it, but it didn't feel like anything was happening. And then there were just some things like, why were interns starting in December? That doesn't make any sense. You don't start in December. And how did Harrison's character just know that she wanted to be walked like a dog?
Lots of things that you're just not supposed to ask questions about. You just gotta accept it.
Yeah, you turned to me at one point and said, I just don't know what this movie's about. And I was like...
I was 45 minutes in. I remember looking at my stopwatch.
Yeah.
And every time we go to a movie, I always start my watch or my stopwatch on my watch.
Mm-hmm.
And just so that we can kind of know the pacing, like when we hit the midpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And like we're pretty... We movie. It's like easier to reference like what's happening at what point, like when we go and talk about it later, when we know kind of like what timestamp it is for the.
Yeah, we've seen our fair share of movies, and you guys know that I also try to take as many notes as I can. But so I saw 33 movies in theater in 2024, and you saw 28. I saw 5 of them by myself. If you really love movies, I highly recommend AMC A-List Plus. You pay $19 a month, and you can see up to 3 movies a week. But as long as you see 2 a month, you're saving money. And we realized we were definitely seeing 2 a month, or there were 2 that we would be interested in most months. So now we've used this for a while, and it's nice. So since we have 33 movies to kind of get through,
we definitely need to get going.
I will get started with our first one. This is kind of crazy though. The first 3 movies of the year that we saw all started with A. Don't know how that worked out, but First one we saw was Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. What were your
Very
initial reactions?
It was like nice to finally have a rom-com out in theaters that did really well.
Yes.
Like it was fun throughout. It didn't like, there's a couple of like kind of cringy moments that you're just going to get in any type of like rom-com, but that's just preference at that point. But I felt like it was an upbeat, fun, predictable, but not like they found ways to like kind of keep it surprising and moving along throughout the whole movie. I thought that was fun. I wish there was more movies like that where it's like,
I do too.
You don't have to like sit and you don't have to think, or you don't have to like wait for a jump scare. It's just like, it was a nice casual fun viewing experience.
It was a lot of fun. I remember I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. Like, I expected to enjoy it generally, but then it was like so entertaining. Like, it really did make me laugh multiple times. And that one had like, and it's based off of, I think, Taming of the Shrew. I don't know. It's loosely based off a Shakespearean play. And they did this whole thing where like the characters would like feel like chorus characters to the side. So there were things that like also like were an homage to the fact that it was a play. And so it would sometimes feel like you were in an aside with the chorus characters. And it was just funny. And they're both hot. That helps.
Agreed.
That helps.
And then we went to another movie that was not a rom-com.
Not a rom-com, but it was fantastic humor and satire-wise. American Fiction. Why can't I think of the guy's name who stars in it? Oh my god. Jeffrey Wright is the main character in it. It is so good. The log line is Monk is a frustrated novelist who's fed up with the establishment that profits from black entertainment that relies on tired and offensive tropes. To prove his point, he uses a pen name to write an outlandish black book of his own, a book that propels him to the heart of hypocrisy and the madness he claims to disdain. So it like is satirical in terms of race conversations in America, but also publishing conversations. There was like a lot of funny publishing and reader type humor in it. And it cracked me up and it made me cry a couple times. It's a really good drama. Like, it does have all of it going for it. Andy Saray's in it too.
It like wrapped up perfectly too. Like there was a couple of good side stories happening throughout. Everybody did like, it was like that movie was written with the cast in mind, because I felt like everybody just like really played their roles just perfectly. Like, that one was cool, especially just like seeing the like publishing industry adjacent references. I thought was kind of cool, and they got kind of meta about some of the things too.
Yeah, it was very meta. And it was just so funny, like him like playing these like hardened black stereotypes when like it's not what he's like at all, is like, it was very good. It had a good sense of humor about itself.
Yeah, it was cool to see like how he would like write a scene by imagining it, and that scene would happen like in his living room.
You're right.
I thought that was really cool. That was made me wonder if any of the authors you've talked with have ever like straight up visualized people around their room.
Yasmin Ongo does when she writes action scenes. She moves around her office and like plays it out. She's pretty cool. She plays it out. I don't know how she does it, but maybe like that.
It was like a karate chop or something.
Yeah. But yeah, if you are a bookish person, which if you're listening to this podcast, the chances are high that you are, and you haven't seen American Fiction yet, very fun. Very fun. Won't depress you. Not bleak necessarily. I forgot how stacked the cast is. There's Tracy Ellis Ross is in it too. Adam Brody, Sterling K. Brown. That cast was stacked. But then we transitioned into another stacked cast because I started seeing everything that was coming out about Dune 2, and we hadn't seen Dune 1, which actually a lot of people hadn't. It came out during the pandemic, so it was like shortly in theaters and then went to streaming really quickly. So it like didn't have like the cultural impact that Dune 2 had this year for sure. But I started seeing the buzz about it, and then I saw that they were doing a re-release of the first one, and I was like, we need to go see the first one in IMAX because I think this is going to be worth it. And when we first got there, I literally was like, oh, I thought this was going to be action packed. There was like a moment 30 or 40 minutes in where I was like, is stuff going to start happening? Not that it wasn't, but it's like an epic. So, and I just, for whatever reason, I didn't put that together. It's more of like a political sci-fi epic. So they kind of had to set everything up for us. And then you get so hooked to all the different like races of people and planets and just all of it. Zendaya, Timothée, Hans Zimmer.
We went home after that and watched like everything from Hans Zimmer afterwards. It was
he
so
like
fun.
made instruments
that
didn't exist before for this movie. And you feel it. It's like, oh, it's so worth seeing in theaters. And I really, 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 I can't remember if 2026 is when the third one's coming out or the end of 2025. I can't remember. But I hope they replay 1 and 2 in IMAX again. Because it's so worth it to experience it that way. So we saw the first one and we were hooked.
Yeah.
And then we saw the second one.
But before we talk about the second one, we went to Argylle as well.
Oh, I forgot Argylle. I skipped right over it.
Argylle was fun. It was different.
It was really fun, especially for like the first 80%. And then this last 20%, it's if you need everything to make perfect sense and follow to a linear conclusion, I see why people rated it so low though. And I was it was still fun. Like, I thought it really still played with like spy tropes in a really fun way. There are some pretty cool reveals. There was
Rotten Tomato gave it a 33%. It's definitely not 33%.
No, like that's at least a 60% in my opinion.
Yeah.
It got so much hate.
Yeah, I thought it was just it was like similar to Anyone But You. It was just a fun movie to watch, especially in theaters too. I think theaters always just make it better to begin with. But the last 20%, it was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of ended. And I could see why I can see why, but it was just, it wrapped things up, but it was just kind of like, okay. But the rest of the movie I felt like it was
funny.
Really, it was just fun. Yeah.
Cause it did make fun of the like spy tropes kind of in a way that like Knives Out will kind of play stuff up.
Yeah.
Like it's an exaggerated version of the genre. But yeah, the ending wasn't like amazing. This is also the book, or this is also the movie that had a book that was released alongside it because the main character is an author who writes spy novels. And so like her novel Argylle was also actually released. So they did all this like buzz with pin names and like who is Argylle. At one point the internet had convinced themselves that Taylor Swift wrote it because there was a cat in it and because Taylor Swift started wearing a shit ton of Argylle last year. People were so convinced. I was like, I don't think this is how she's gonna premiere the first movie that she writes. So yeah, that one had so much media attention and then it got so much negative attention when it came out. I felt bad for it.
Yeah. It was I did develop a crush on Dua Lipa though.
Oh, you're
That was when
right.
I
That
found out
was
about
kind
her.
of your
I was like,
introduction to
oh,
Dua Lipa. And then the next time you saw her was at the VMAs, and you were like, "Damn,
like really quickly
who
after
dat?"
too.
And I was like, "That's Dua Lipa." You're like, "That's her too."
It was like within days of seeing it. I
Yeah,
was like,
Girly loves her wigs. So
yep.
if you don't know her yet, but now you do.
Now I do.
Now you do.
Okay, so then we went to Dune 2.
Then Dune 2. It's
And
even better than the first one.
I mean, it lived up to every expectation I had.
Yeah.
The audio, I think the audio was literally my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Just like rewatch, like I watched it again the other night.
Oh, really?
Like with my one AirPod, and it was just, it wasn't the same, but it was still awesome because when you get to see the like excitement from like when it all starts and then like the main music hits, when all the things come together, it's just, and then like the what's his name, Austin
Butler.
actor. Austin Butler, yeah, perfectly creepy.
Yeah,
like, he just crushed his role. I loved that. In that whole scene too.
He felt like a total sociopath.
Yeah, they in this one I felt like had a lot more action in it.
It did.
Than build up. Like it had action kind of throughout because there was because the stage was set that there was just room for a lot of action to happen and a lot of things needed to happen. And then it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Dune 3. I went and talked to ChatGPT about what happens in the series for the movies. And it
gets weird.
It gets pretty wild. Yeah. Like
there's some
could
weird
see them
stuff
being done around 3.
Yeah. That's what I think Villeneuve said like it's just a trilogy.
Yeah, I don't blame him either.
A lot of the fandom feels like it goes off the tracks, and then it was like also like the author's son picked it up just to keep it going. So like, yeah, there's weird stuff the further you get into Dune-dom.
Yeah, it got pretty wild. But anyway, Dune 2 though, perfect. It was such an intense ending. I remember like I got a heart rate notification.
Oh yeah, you did.
Watch during the first like fight scene with in black and white when they used the infrared camera or the black and white, whatever. But it was just like because they have like the heartbeat, you could feel it in the chair, and then like it is just really intense. Like you're like, okay, I'm sure the bad guy's about to win, but like win. And so it was just, that one. Yeah, literally had a heart rate notification go off on that one. I was like, it was that was fun. That's cinema, baby.
Yeah, their Coliseum scene was better than another Coliseum scene that we saw later in the year.
And we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Same composer for that one though. Actually. Then actually similar messaging. We saw Civil War was the next one. And without getting into spoilers, Dune really is a commentary on like politics, religion, colonization. It really like hits all of those big subjects. Especially though too with religion, they really dive into like how much you can control a group of people if you're just perpetuating the same message across like decades of people. So Dune does that with those topics. And then Civil War was one of the more unique movies we saw this year.
It's A24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's following some photojournalists. I can't remember how far into the future, but sometime into the future.
So in a dystopian future America, a team of military embedded journalists races against time to reach Washington, D.C. before rebel factions descend upon the White House.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't even know how far into the future. But
and that like came out like at the like right when the election cycle like really was starting to pick up too. So it was like also strategic as fuck.
Definitely. It also, but also what I will say is I don't feel like it picks a side at all.
No,
that was the, like, it's not propaganda about the election. It just happened as we were all starting to have to think about it. But it's like, it shows some pretty unflinching like truths of war. I'm sure, I mean, obviously it's way worse than even what this movie shows, but like makes you just stare at it and look at it, which is also so integral to the story.
Photo, like the way that they would cut away to the photos that the journalists would take. I thought was just like, when you say they made you stare at it, they like, and they would cut the audio.
Yes.
So like it would just be quiet and you would just see the photo and just like.
And it's just like, that's where it's so central to the story that they're making us just look at stuff, because that's the role of like all the characters that we're following the whole time. Like they are photojournalists. And then it brings up all the weird questions of like needing to have photos of history and like what happened. But then like in the moment, they're not super protected. They typically don't have guns on them. Like it was very nuanced the way it approached some of the morality issues. And then also like, but what is the value of people who are kind of like preserving history even when it's bad? It was fascinating. I also saw this one around the same time that I read The Man Who Saw Seconds, I think. Which was another one, or which was a book that like part of my review even is like, it's going to make you uncomfortable while you're reading it, but that's kind of the point. And I felt like that was the point of this movie too, was like, let's actually look at how uncomfortable it is when we start killing each other.
On another note of the movie, I was watching it as somebody that uses a camera for a living, and I couldn't get past the fact that she was using a film camera, and still just taking epic shots. Film cameras just are so much more manual, but they have a very distinct look. But she had a manual focus lens, and she was like getting really good shots of very intense situations. And that I couldn't stop thinking about it from the very beginning of the movie. Like it was just in my head, but like, I was like, somebody did do that though before. And so I just had like a whole respect for the people that are like, at one point there were people like out getting shot at and like focusing and taking a photo.
Pictures.
Like that to me is wild. But nowadays, like our camera is like, it tracks the left or right eye, which whenever you choose, and it can like the autofocus can track a bird's eye when flying. It's wild how much better the cameras are nowadays. So I had that like knowledge going into it. And so then when this person was like, this is relevant. This is a film camera.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then this is like the camera that we literally have our whole career around.
Yeah.
This like will just like half press and it'll just take like 15 photos in a second. But this one, you have to like wind it up. This one's broke, but oh, there we go. Oh, I just took a picture of that actually. They're still filming this.
Meta.
But and you have to use like the I got a whole
viewfinder.
I've got a whole monitor on the back of this.
Yes.
This I've got to look at. Like I got to focus on this still. Like look how long this has taken me. Imagine me being shot at right now.
Or your subject is getting shot at, and you're like, I'm gonna get this shot.
And you gotta and you have to like know what film you have and like how like the lighting is so much more sensitive that like with this you have to know so much more. So it is just more manual. But like the technology and the newer cameras, which everybody else had, everybody else in the video,
except Kirsten Dunst's character.
Yeah, when she even had a Sony A7R.
Oh no, you're right.
So I was like, yeah, but like they reference film stuff, but the Nikon F2, I think, is what the camera was that they used. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was like what I got distracted by that whole movie, but it like led down a whole path of like, dang, maybe I should learn how to use film cameras. Mm-hmm. So this is about as far as I made it. I acquired said film camera. Now I need to actually
fuck around with it.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I digress.
It was very thought-provoking in multiple ways.
Yeah,
it was. The ending is so intense. So intense. It was just, we saw that one in IMAX too, and it was just like there is so much like fighting throughout the movie. Like I even got to a point where I was like, I need to dampen the sound. Like it was just, it's a loud in your face movie essentially.
And it's not like tons of music playing over it either.
No.
Like it is just like bullets whizzing by.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
they did. There was a lot of element. It was just a creepy movie, but it was really, I felt like it was really well done.
I agree.
But yeah, it was just kind of like, but what was really good was this next one.
Oh, it was so good. Now this was like swinging into summer because I think Dune was May. And then we like swung into a bunch of
Civil War was April. I just happened to look that up.
Okay. You're right. So Monkey Man is the next one we saw. Oh, this is still April. You're right. Yeah. So it was like it wasn't April quite summer yet. Well, Monkey Man is written, acted, directed, and produced by Dev Patel. If you love action movies, this one is just, it's incredibly fun. He even talks about it as like the John Wick, but make him Indian. I really hope I'm right.
Did you read the synopsis of it?
Yeah, I will read it. So
somebody doesn't know.
Yep. A young man ekes out a meager living in an underground fight club where night after night, wearing a gorilla mask, he's beaten bloody by more popular fighters for cash. After years of suppressed rage, he discovers a way to infiltrate the enclave of the city's sinister elite. As his childhood trauma boils over, his mysteriously scarred hands unleash an explosive campaign of retribution to settle the score with the men who took everything from him. It's amazing. And we kind of went in without even knowing that whole structure. We knew it was like action. But one of the things, I took so many notes on this movie, but one of the things from the very beginning, I was like, they're doing such a good job.
You need to pull up a screenshot of all your notes.
Yeah. I'll pull up all my notes from this.
But like she really does take copious notes.
Yeah.
So we strategically will, so that, and because we always try to find like back row corner.
Yes.
So that we can block you off, basically.
Yeah. So I can take my notes. I think there are a few, but I think Monkey Man, Challengers, and Heretic. Heretic, I took so much notes for, but we'll get to that one. But Monkey Man, like what had me like immediately taking notes, they introduced so many questions, like in the first like 15 to 20 minutes. Like you're like, oh, why is he doing this? Why am I watching this? Like it really draws you in, and the pacing is so fast. So even though you're like trying to figure out what's happening, like you're learning new stuff like so quickly. And then it devolves into John Wick type retribution, which is the way I love revenge. I just love it.
It's satisfying to watch him like
kick ass,
do what he said he's gonna fucking do.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh shit, she's not fucking around.
Yeah, and then it's also almost a superhero story. I remember my review, I was like, there's so much to say about how many genres that it fits. It has the like fighting subgenre, so it has some of the like Rocky feeling to it still, has John Wick feeling to it, has like
and like the lighting too.
The
kind
what?
Of I was just saying, I'm looking through some images now, and like the lighting, I remember like,
oh yeah,
they just lit all their scenes so well that it was just like it complemented the scene perfectly.
Yeah,
like, it was
totally
like there
agree.
was like lots of red, and then there'd be really warm yellows and like flashback looking. It was they crushed on that front too.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think I interrupted you though.
I was just saying all the different genres it fits, because then it also hits like the folklore genre, because like Monkey Man is like a folklore that his like mom or sister, but I think mom, told him when he was growing up. And then there's even like fuck the system. There's like a commentary on religion, high demand religion overreaching its power, essentially. So it just put so many genres into one thing. And then I, of course, had to go home and watch like everything about it, especially when it's like someone writes it, acts it, directs it. Like it truly was a passion project.
Yeah, because it took forever to produce.
Yeah. And so I won't get into all of it because it was also so long ago. I'm not perfect with the facts at this point, but if you see it, you love it, go watch some of the interviews with him on YouTube, because it is crazy. Like the amount of bones he broke while he was on set. One time he was keeping it from people that he had like a broken finger or something, because he was like, we have to keep shooting. And then they almost didn't have enough money to do post-production, and Jordan Peele saw a version of it, came in, and was like, first of all, you're not going to streaming, this is going to theaters, and like, second of all, here's what we're going to do. So I also love Jordan Peele and his storytelling, so I love them teaming up at the end. And Jordan Peele's the reason it was in theaters. It was going to be a Netflix release, I think.
Yeah, dude.
So thank you.
I saw the budget was 10 million.
Wow. That like, there's a scope of set pieces in that movie.
Yeah, dude. And they used an iPhone. I think they used an iPhone for some of the footage too. Yeah.
Yeah, what was that? It was like some fight scene or something where like someone caught a phone, I think. Yeah. Oh no, it was like one of those trivia facts. It was like all they had at that scene, and
there was
like
I think it was. Oh man, I need to find that article.
Yeah.
So I can, because I remember seeing that in like all of my algorithm. People like camera enthusiasts were all like, "This was part of us on an iPhone."
Yeah. It might have been during, because I know they were filming during the pandemic too, and I wonder if that was it too. I remember he was saying they had to stop multiple times because they were literally like, this was like beginning of pandemic, when the COVID tests would like assault your whole face.
Okay, so here's one. First thing that pops up on Google when I put iPhone Monkey Man filming was Monkey Man with Phil. While you would expect Braun's bankruptcy to be the nail in the coffin, or Monkey Man how's it, Patel?
Dev Patel. Mm-hmm.
It just says Patel. That's probably why. Anyway, filming mini scenes on an iPhone 15 after the crew could no longer afford filming content.
Wow.
Equipment. I don't know. Yeah. So basically,
that's so cool.
All that to say, part of it was definitely filmed on an iPhone.
Mm-hmm. It also has humor throughout, which is so fun when action movies have their little dark moments of humor that break up the heaviness of the story. But yeah, iPhone footage made it to the silver screen. It did it.
I'm just down the rabbit hole of
Monkey Man trivia now.
Man trivia, yeah, and just anyway. Let's do the next movie.
Oh my gosh. The next one. We got these two in a row, guys. We got Monkey Man and then Challengers. I will never forget Challengers or Monkey Man, actually, but Challengers with Zendaya and Josh O'Connor. And I'm sorry, I don't know the men. I think most of us knew Zendaya. Mike Faced and Josh O'Connor. So fucking good. Non-linear storytelling. There's some weird suspense and tension between the relationship of Zendaya with these two boys. Well, at the beginning of the film, two men, and then we start learning parts of their backstory. It's not told linearly. I already said that, but that like it made it feel like reading a book. That was one where I leaned over to you and was like, this is what reading a book is like when it bounces between timelines. So that part was cool. It added suspense to a story that is literally all about how Tashi Duncan just wants to watch some fucking good tennis. Like, that's what the whole story is about, but they managed to make it suspenseful. The composition is also why it feels like a fever dream and suspenseful the whole time. Like, so good. So fucking good. They just won the Golden Globe for composition for a movie, basically. And they deserved it. Like, if I hear the Match Point song on TikTok still, like, you're just like, I want to go run. Like, it just, it's just amazing.
Dude, it was the same thing as like I was going to say about Monkey Man was they made the lighting in different scenes just really complement the scene in a big way. I thought and it's like it's coming back to me. Oh yes, my mind went from you'd be like in these flashback. So in my mind you were in these flashbacks and then you would cut away, but they did it without having to like lose camera quality. If that makes sense. Like sometimes I feel like when in flashback scenes you always see like grainy old footage, but they just literally would shift timelines but then alter the way that the characters are dressed or act, or and then you find out like, oh, when are we right now? That's, and so I think what I'm trying to say is it was fun figuring that out specifically, like being able to see the back and forth, and it's just so perfect because like the tennis ball action shots, like when the camera's the tennis ball, it like that to me epitomizes the back and forth camera work that happens. Like,
which speaking of, there is a scene where you are the tennis ball. And it is so much better than you. I remember hearing that and being like, okay, it's kind of gimmicky, whatever. It works. You are the really tennis ball. It's amazing. Yeah. Also, that was one that had erotic elements technically, but actually still had plot. And that's what pulled it off.
So like the trailer would make you think it was
sexier,
what Baby Girl was.
Exactly.
But no, it was not, and it was cool because I didn't ever really have to get into tennis until that movie, where I was like, damn, I need to learn to play tennis.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like, that was you did play it a couple of times this year, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I went and played, and then I quit because I was like,
like this is gonna take a while.
But I thought it was cool though because I just felt like they made tennis look cool.
It did, for
somebody that doesn't watch or follow tennis on a regular basis.
Yeah, Zendaya has that effect. She'll get you interested in anything in some ways. What was the other thing that I was thinking about with that one? God, I can't remember. Then all the little theories I saw on like subreddits and stuff of all the ways that he made it, the movie about tennis. The movie also starts at love and ends at 40. They're all 40 years old at the end. And it starts with them in a more loving place, and then it ends at 40. And it's just like the levels of like Easter eggs in it are really fun to look up after you watch it too. Also, I have to pull these recommendations out. The Favorites by Lane Fargo, which officially comes out January 14th, but if you have Book of the Month or NetGalley, you may have already read it, and I have. Such similar vibes. Kat Shaw is so similar to Tashi Duncan, so much so that when I've already interviewed Lane, and that episode will come out next Tuesday. It'll come out on the 14th. That when I brought up Challengers, she was like, oh my gosh, yes, Kat is Tashi. Like, that is the biggest compliment ever. So also, if you love characters like that, very much The Favorites, and Carrie Soto is back is very much the same thing. Like, women obsessed with their ambition to the point that the public has opinions about them. So go watch Challengers. That's the moral of this segment. And then we had another good one, and this is another one. I'm shocked that both of these didn't do better than they did. I kind of understand Challengers was pretty niche, like how many people were hearing about the sexy threesome-ish tennis movie. But the Fall Guy, I thought was so much fun, like so much movie fun. It has like meta movie references. It's with Ryan Gosling. I almost said Reynolds. And Emily Blunt. And he essentially is the stunt man or the fall guy. And basically things start going wrong on set, but it has action. It also has the comedy that makes it like really, really fun. Ryan Gosling's hot. Emily Blunt's hot. It was just really fun, and I'm shocked that like I remember hearing people talk about like it was just not doing well at the box office, and I don't know why. Because it was like even so your brother and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, whatever, their kids are 14, and is Gavin 11 or 10? I don't know. But like it's even a PG-13 movie that like they watched with their kids, but like I didn't feel, sometimes PG-13 feels like they're like pulling punches on like action or stuff. It was still like perfectly enjoyable. So I'm like, how did more families not go see this one? Like, it was such an approachable movie.
It was just not, it was flat tire there.
Yeah.
It was like another comedy, like action comedy that you didn't have to pay a whole lot of attention to still have like a good time. Like, whereas like Challengers, like while it's like fun to watch the back and forth with the timelines, it's like with the Fall Guy, it was, you could just watch and see what's happening and like put it all together. Challenge, you need context, you need to remember that one thing to appreciate like what's happening with the next thing. There's not as much of that with Fall Guy.
No. Super entertaining. In an easy way. Then we really thought that we were gonna like love Furiosa. You were a little more disappointed with it than I was. It wasn't everything I thought it was gonna be, but even so, this is kind of like the origin story of Charlize Theron's character in Mad Max. How she became the war rider that she is. But I think our main takeaway, though, when we left, though, that, like, I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's what it wasn't there. You were like, they didn't have, like, the music in the, like, wars, the fighting scenes, like, between the cars and stuff. And that was such a, like, unique part of Mad Max. So I understood why you were like, but what about this?
Yeah, it goes. It is just like, it's interesting. I just put it together right this minute. I remember I was like mentioning how in Dune, I was like, first thing I said was like something about how great the audio was and seeing it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's when there is something lacking in the audio department, it like will take you out, or it'll take you out of it, or it can like enhance everything.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I went in with the expectation that it was going to be like that. I don't know. It's like rock.
There were like
electric
rock
guitars.
Yeah, there was everything.
It was just really interesting. It was memorable. Like, obviously not that I can't specifically talk about it, but
well, yeah, it was like
that's where I wish
and stuff.
Like, I need to learn an actual like definition of like what it is that I like about the thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do I actually articulate the rockish music of, because it was so unique, and I guess that's what's fascinating. Yeah. Anyway. Audio.
It's very steampunky.
I think it was really cool from a visual perspective. I feel like they did a really cool job with the steampunk dystopian world.
Yeah, that part's always that was cool.
Yeah.
And I like her revenge story, cool. So I was there for it with her. But
yeah,
it wasn't. We thought it was going to be like, holy shit, we're going to have like 6 really good ones in a row. And it was good. It was good.
It was good. Yeah.
Another good one was Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Yeah, that was, dude. Fun. That was just another fun one. It was like the Fall Guy. It was just fun. Like you knew what was going to happen probably
most of the time,
but then it was just still fun to watch.
Yeah, and it was. At first, I remember being like, I kind of had to adjust to the type of storytelling that they like, the way they because they kind of, it's almost, this is going to sound goofy, but bookish people know what I mean. It's almost like magical realism. Like some of their scenes get really like trippy and hyperbolic. But then once I got used to it, I was like, oh, okay, this is just the way that they're telling this story. But it was very funny. And then there was still the action. Just very
they
fun.
Had when you said the trippy like style, it made me think of like I feel like it was like the hot dog scene or something.
Yeah,
it was in the very beginning. It was like when he went to go get something. It was like camera in this, like,
in the roller.
Yeah. So it was, they really went heavy on the like
the visuals.
What's the coolest way we can just like make a cutaway or something like that? And so it was like everything was done with like an exclamation mark. Like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's add an exclamation mark to it.
That's what I feel like Hallie sometimes says about books. She's like, you can tell the writer was having fun writing it. And I think that's the same thing that you're saying. Like, you can tell they were just having so much fun with this one. That was the other thing. And that they just had the budget. Because I remember you leaned over, like, when he goes home to like his family's house, they have like a camera in the pantry, so there's like just a shot where like so you're like, someone set up a whole camera just so that he could open the pantry and grab something, and you're like, just because they had the budget for it. So it is fun visually, like it is a visually different movie too. I remember like one of the fight scenes like being kind of at like a kid themed party or something, because there were like all these like brilliant like scenes of like candy, like rainbow colored candy, like flying through the air. And one of the storylines is like that he can't eat junk food anymore, so it's like even funnier. Like, so it was just fun. Motion.
Yep.
It was really fun. Yeah.
They used an FPV drone for a lot of stuff too. Yeah, they just, you can just I do just feel like everybody on set, I hope hope it's this way for every set, but I feel like everybody's having fun on this set though. Like
I agree.
Just, everybody's like, we can't take ourselves too seriously. Like we're making the 5th Bad Boys movie,
right?
Like we're going to lean into these characters that have been developed over 20 years.
Yeah.
Like people just know. It's like it is cool because it's unique in the sense of there's not a lot of like this started like in the mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it has just gone on for a hot minute. So it is cool to see them pick back up. And then just how they've all kind of stayed true to the like Michael Bay explosions.
Yeah.
Essentially, like it's been like that since the beginning, and they're still able to still do it because it's like they found a big enough of an audience that can like kind of follow along that type of fun that they exude, like going through like opening a cabinet and then there's like the whole camera rig that's set up the pantry. Like it's just that kind of stuff, but it just kind of create it. Yeah, it is the type of stuff that I just feel like everybody's I would just assume that they're all just having so much fun putting all that together.
I think so.
It
had to be. I mean, I know we never know they're actors, but I would assume so.
Yeah.
Well, you were out of town for a little bit at that time, and I saw Inside Out 2, actually, with brother and sister-in-law not just my sister-in-law and her kids. So I went and saw that. It's just as good as the first one. It introduces, I can't remember. I mean, I'll just look it up right now. New emotions. It introduces anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. It's just very, very good. We all know that Pixar just knows how to write stories that engage kids and adults.
Is the humor there like there was in the first one?
Yeah, ennui is really funny too, because ennui is like a feeling of boredom, dissatisfaction, and lack of energy. So it's like the teenagers are so ennui because they're always just like, oh, this is so boring, or like we could be doing something better, and just like trying to be like it's such a teenager emotion. Not that we don't feel it later in life, but it made me laugh a lot. And then, it made me cry so hard at the end. So hard. Like,
I remember you texted me, like,
yeah.
Hardcore. Yeah, you were just like, I can't stop crying.
I know. Like, I expected to. I didn't expect for them to just knock it out of the park. And,
I mean, they did on that first one, too. I mean, they left you feeling that way, where you're just like,
I know. Yeah, because, like, sadness being useful. Yeah, the ending of the first one. Spoiler alert, guys. It's been out for years. Yeah, the second one is fantastic.
It's only been out for a year.
What?
Inside 2, right?
Well, I was just referencing the first one. How sadness was the answer at the end of the first one. Like, you have to actually attach with your sadness, unfortunately, as someone who prefers anger.
Yeah, what was the type of female character that you were describing earlier?
Yeah, my female rage episode's really popping off on YouTube right now. But yeah, Inside Out 2 really is fantastic. Mackenzie Green, who's been on here before and who I've just quoted more and more in my life lately, there's a scene with anxiety that it helps her when she's being hella anxious to visualize that, because it's such a good visual of it. And now I use it sometimes to be like, hey, this is what's happening. That's all. So it was really good. And again, my niece and nephew are like 14 and 10, and like 14, literally like the ennui age. She was like looking at me like, oh, someone is crying as much as my mom right now. Like, what is happening? And she was like, you guys are crying a lot. And I was like, I'm just going to say the thing that boring adults always say, and one day you're going to understand and it'll make you cry too. And she just rolled her eyes at us. So we just cried together, and it's great. It's amazing, really. It's the only thing that will get me to go see cartoon or animated in theaters. Yeah. I think the Lego movie was the last one we did.
Mario.
Oh, Mario, you're right. Mario came out. Yep.
That was a good one.
So the next one was the Bikeriders. It was decent.
It was good. Austin Butler was good in it.
You're right.
That so was Tom Hardy.
What got us there? Yeah.
Yeah, like it was all done very well. I just didn't really care for the storyline. I thought it was going to have a little bit more action,
and we thought there was going to be more action. Yeah, like the gist of it is, over the course of a decade, a Midwestern motorcycle club evolves from a gathering place for local outsiders to a sinister gang threatening the original group's way of life. And I mean, there is violence. It's not that there's not violence, but it was much more historical fiction feeling. And that's what it was. And technically for that, it was good. But yeah, it wasn't as fast paced as what we were expecting.
It wasn't a Bad Boys, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't a Bad Boys Ride or Die. Yeah, it wasn't that. It was
okay.
A slow motion version of that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you like historical fiction or historical dramas, I think you'd love it, which is what I have said for one other one that I saw this year. Then we saw Maxxxine.
I like trying to remember
this one. We loved. Okay, so Pearl, we saw a couple 2 years ago, I think is when it came out. We went kind of expecting one thing and we're not expecting what it was when we got there. And the first 15 minutes we were looking at each other and we were like, we don't watch movies from the 1930s or 40s. We're like, and then we ended up loving it by the end of it. Such a good like descent into madness story. And so then after that we watched X. It's just called X, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Which is in the 70s. And also has like Mia. I'm having a hiccup attack. Also has Mia Goth in it as well. She's the through line. I can't remember if anyone else is a through line in all of them. And then Maxxxine is the 80s. And like I went in expecting this to be like an 8 or 9 out of 10 and it wasn't for me. It was not that. It didn't hit for me. But what I've also learned from the experience is 80s was all about campy horror. And Gare is going to kill me if he's listening right now. He's going to kill me, but it's just personal preference. It just didn't work for me. The ending was so wild and I just didn't feel grounded in the story almost at any point.
Yeah, I had to look it up to remember it. So
yeah, you didn't even remember. And this is one that like it's like you either really loved it or you were just like, I don't know, it wasn't my favorite in the trilogy. Like that's what it's. I'm trying to say that like if you love 80s campy horror, you would love this one. It didn't feel grounded enough for me, and it's just like literally a genre preference that I'm so intrigued by, how we can't even control our preferences, but like that one like doesn't work for me. What did work for me was Longlegs.
I was gonna say, okay, so I gotta look that one up now too.
You'll remember here soon. Longlegs was, which it's pretty funny. We do it all the time. There was all of this hype about like, this is the scariest movie in the last decade. Everyone likes to promise that. And this year, since I just started watching more horror and also reading more horror, I've learned I don't get terrified by too much. Not like terrified. Because some people really were like terrified watching that one. I loved it. I thought it was so beautifully shot. I thought Micah Monroe's performance was amazing. Like you just like feel how tightly wound and stressed out she is through the entire movie. And Nicolas Cage is creepy. Like, Longlegs is creepy. Didn't terrify me, but I thought the story was fascinating and beautifully shot.
Yeah, it was creepy. I'm not a huge creepy movie fan though.
Yeah.
But
somehow I
they
became
had
one
like
this
straight up.
year.
Yeah, there was a lot of like I remember like really good tripod shots, like establishing
Yes.
shots. They would always like center them up. They would take their time to like everything just felt deliberate with their camera work. It all is, but like that to me, I just the like stillness of the camera to allow for everything that's happening, that's crazy happening, that's in the scene. It's I thought that was cool because it was able to like freak you out a little bit because like they had to.
He's in the background of so many scenes. That's what it also does that you're talking about. Because I remember, like, I noticed a few of them, but then I remember being on TikTok after we watched it and being like, oh my God, they fit him in, or his shadow or whatever, in so many scenes where they are just holding that. So, to your point, kind of the longer you're looking at it, the more scary shit you find.
Yeah. It's like a I Spy book.
Yeah.
Like, you're over here.
Yeah. Oz Perkins is the director, and he did some really cool interviews. So you can definitely, did I say his name right? Yeah, it sounded weird. But he did some cool interviews about the cinematography of it, all of it. I definitely want to rewatch that one because it's another one that you notice more once you know what happened.
Yeah, you could appreciate
that's
it.
what I'll say.
Yeah.
So I kind of need to rewatch it. Switching lanes, we went back to pure summer high octane entertainment, just some American entertainment. If you can't guess what we're about to talk about, were you on this planet this year? Twisters, yeah. Just super entertaining. Actually had more plot than I expected there to be.
I went in expecting no plot, and there was. And I was like, wow, I care about these characters. I want to see this. I want to see how that unfolds. Like it is okay. Like I was expecting crazy CGI tornado things to be happening. There were, but they just brought such a fun element to it that I felt like it was just a really. Yeah, because it also is in theaters, dude. Like it's that sound, you felt the rumble of a tornado, and that was like,
I know we need to try
adds to the intensity so much. Yeah,
go to a 4DX sometime this year because that was the movie that also, dude. I'm just gonna keep talking about Mackenzie apparently in this episode, but she talked on multiple podcasts about how she saw that one in 4DX with like the sound, the rain, the wind, the moving chair. We need to like see which ones are gonna be 4DX.
Did we see that one in Dolby though? I feel like we saw that one on the south side.
I don't think
because the sound was. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought we saw it in the IMAX one, but maybe we did.
But yeah. I feel like the Solby sound theaters.
Oh yeah, the Dolby
definitely are different. They hit different. And it's fun.
We saw 2023. We saw the Eras tour in a Dolby one.
That was fun.
Oh my gosh! Like it literally. I remember when we left. I was like, can everyone start releasing their concerts in theater? Like, can we have different concerts every weekend? Because I will go watch them like that.
Yeah, that for real though.
It was so good. We saw.
I'd love to just watch old concerts. Like imagine watching Queen, like right after we get done watching like
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Then you can just go watch a whole concert at that theater. That'd be so fun.
It would be so fun. So AMC, if you're listening, one, I forgot to mention at the top that you can sponsor this podcast. So I'm throwing it out there. We are proud A-listers already. So if you're listening, just hit me up somewhere. But two, what was the second one that I was going to say about AMC? Dolby sounds are so much better, and you can see it in the app. I don't know. I think I lost my second one. Damn it. I don't know. I was on a roll.
Concerts.
Concerts, that's what it was. 2, please start doing concerts. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, please, and thank you. One that we did see in a Dolby Cinema was A Quiet Place, day 1. And wow, that was
very intense.
I think the line that I said on a podcast a while ago after we saw it was like, I knew going in, I knew it would make me cry. Every single one of these is emotionally harrowing. And we also just kind of chose to do it like last minute. Like we both just kind of got done with work and we were like, what's playing? So it was just kind of like I just like showed up there, and then I was like, holy shit. I was crying so hard at the end.
Oh yeah, you were. Yeah, she so was. Hard. That was yeah.
What's cool with this one is we start with Lupita Nyong'o's character is in hospice care at the beginning of it. And even like that, when I remember like just being in such a like work mindset, and then I remember seeing that at the beginning, and I was like, oh man, they are gonna bring up some questions, and boy did they. We were just talking about it again recently. I can't totally remember why, but they basically then like the rest of the whole movie is like mostly her and Joseph Quinn's character navigating their way around the city on day 1 when like the aliens, I think that's, or predators, I can't remember what they call them because not screechers. Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me nuts. Quiet Place, day 1.
So it was like a club
because they had a name for it. Because there's a funny, the monsters are. Okay, all I know is there is literally this funny TikTok of like them doing a press junket, and someone asks like a Death Angels. Someone asked him about Death Angels. He's like, what's a Death Angel? And Lupita's like, the monster in the movie we just made. So that's why I was like, surely I'm going to be able to remember this. There's like this memorable TikTok from their press junket. So anyway, the Death Angels arrive on day 1 for this one. And so it's like everyone who doesn't even know what's happening just initially reacting to essentially a prequel to the other ones. And so they like bring up the question so much of like, even if you know you're really close to your death health wise, but when something like this happens, like the will to survive is so strong. And then I can't go into the ending because I don't want to give anyone spoilers, but the movie overall started to remind me of the Ram Dass quote, we're all just walking each other home. And that was when I couldn't stop crying once I realized, I was like, this is the point of the movie. So that is my really nuanced review of A Quiet Place and the way it just slapped me upside the face. That happened again like 6 movies later, but thankfully we broke up the bleakness. Like Quiet Day or A Quiet Place, day 1 had Gare vibes. I remember being like, Gare, you will love this ending so much. And then there was Deadpool and Wolverine, which is very much in the entire opposite direction. Like, take nothing seriously.
So good.
Accept your commitment to mocking the franchise for whom you are writing your character, and also creating engaging action sequences and plot. And the soundtrack is insane. Yeah. I don't think I need to read a description. People know what Deadpool and Wolverine was.
But I think you would like it if you like social commentary mixed in with like silly
deep
humor.
cut Marvel references.
Yeah, a lot. Like the more you know, the more you appreciate. I feel like with a lot of those superhero movies, but yeah, it was just fun. It was exactly
So
like Fall Guy, Bad Boys. I wish I knew what number it was because it's so much easier to remember the number. But anyway,
Ride or Die.
There was Twisters. Like there was just fun visually.
There was some great entertaining.
Audibly.
Yeah.
Like it was just entertaining all the way through. And
I think I've referenced the Pop Fiction Women to you, their podcast. And they had a clip recently about like people forget that like being entertaining is also just like a big part of like what can make something really fun to watch, because sometimes people are like, oh sure, it's like entertaining but nothing new. Doesn't always have to be something new. Like sometimes you can just be extremely entertaining in the way that you're doing it and in like a mass consumption way.
Yep. Yeah,
it was so good.
Everybody's just having fun on that set. Like it's like people are in their lane and they're just like, oh cool, let's do that. Because I think we've listened to that one interview with Ryan Reynolds and some, can't think of it, actors on actors.
Yeah.
But I think they said there's only like 2 jokes that they had to pull out.
Yes.
Otherwise it was like total like freedom to shit on like 20th Century Fox.
I know. And that whole movie franchise is an underdog story, which is crazy too. Now some people are like, no, it's not. He was already an actor. I'm like, no. This was a passion project that he was really calculated about, like his little like leaking stuff when the first one wasn't getting funded or whatever. Like it is an underdog story and it makes it even better, and the character's an underdog and one of the most meta characters of a franchise. It was also, that's what I was gonna say earlier, this was also one where like at our AMC, like sometimes there are Thursday night releases for Friday movies. So this was one where like I recorded an episode with Garen and Steph, and then we saw that there was availability. So we were actually seated with a bunch of people. It was a mostly full theater. And this was like the one movie all year. And Twisters. There were a lot of people at Twisters too. Where like it actually did make it better to see it with a bunch of people too. Because everyone was
the audience
up.
Participation. Yeah. I feel like it's when everybody's laughing together and it enhances it all perfectly.
So yeah, that's gonna conclude part 1 of all of the movies we saw in 2024. Come back later this week for part 2.